Whether we as fans want to face it or not, hockey is ultimately a business first and foremost, meaning that when players aren't able to meet expectations, aka make the money they're being paid, then buyouts can happen. But it's important to mention that they happen for an array of different reasons, including injuries, aging, a cultural makeover, etc. In this video, we're going to go over a handful of NHL players who are no longer playing hockey and still getting paid. And with that, here are 5 retired players that are still collecting paychecks. In case you're amongst the younger demographic that's watching, then you may not be aware of what led up to the buyout of Mike Richards. The start of this story takes us back to 2003. Despite the fact that Philadelphia has never been able to draft a player first overall, 21 years ago the team lucked out, as the Flyers were able to draft 2 forwards from the first round in Jeff Carter and Mike Richards. However, while it seemed like a great idea at the time to bring both players to Philly, the franchise would eventually regret the decision. After relentless partying led to what former head coach Peter Laviolette called Dry Island didn't work, Jeff Carter was the first to go of the pair. Once Carter had settled in Columbus, Richards was then traded to Los Angeles. If you want to learn more about the two and their struggles with the party scene, be sure to check out my video that goes into more detail. Eventually, Carter also made his way to the City of Angels, and the pair, along with the team, learned what capturing Lord Stanley felt like. Unfortunately though, it wasn't long after the Kings' 2014 championship that Richards quickly found himself at rock bottom. In the offseason of 2015, as Richards was attempting to cross the Canadian border into the United States, he was arrested and charged with drug possession. Reason being, Richards, who was 30 years old at the time, had with him, according to documents, oxycodone that wasn't prescribed. The incident that transpired on June 17th resulted in Richards' contract being terminated 2 days later by his team. The contract, that was originally signed in 2008, was supposed to expire in 2020. However, due to the fact that Richards was bought out, changed the course of events. Richards, who filed a grievance over the buyout through the NHLPA, ended up scoring big time. After Richards and his former team were able to come to terms, it was decided that he would be getting paid annually until the end of the 2031-32 campaign. Just to put this into perspective a little, Jack Eichel and Connor McDavid will be 35 years old when the Kings can finally stop paying their former player. For the last decade of the installments, Richards will be receiving on average $641,000 per year. However, if you head on over to the new cap-friendly substitute, the actual numbers fluctuate quite a bit. It's hard not to wonder what things potentially would have been like if Richards hadn't been arrested. According to the Sports Illustrated article that I'll link below, Richards was set to be traded to Boston over the course of the summer. Instead, after going through that ordeal with the Kings, Richards had a brief stint with the Washington Capitals that didn't exactly pan out. While Ilya Bryzgalov will always be remembered for humorous reasons, such as his universe comment years ago, there's another reason as to why the goaltender stands out. After signing a massive $51 million contract with the Flyers, Bryzgalov was presumably going to be tending Philly's net for 9 years. And looking back, it's understandable as to why the Flyers put so much faith into Bryzgalov, as he had previously secured the Stanley Cup in Anaheim and was a Vezina nominee for 2010. He was in the same company as Martin Brodeur and Ryan Miller. Unfortunately though, following a couple of mediocre seasons, the Flyers made the decision to buy out their goaltender in the offseason of 2013. This move definitely produced a lot of backlash from Briz and his agent that I discussed further in my previous video if you'd like to learn more. Anyways, the buyout essentially was the largest ever in the history of the league at the time, and it set in motion the stream of income that he would receive for the next 14 years of $1.63 million. Due to it happening during the compliance period, The Flyers were able to stay shielded from cap implications. At the same time though, as he was collecting that paycheck, Bryzgalov went on to suit up for multiple teams. However, after playing for Minnesota, Edmonton, and making a comeback appearance in Anaheim, he decided to call it quits after being put on waivers in 2015. Once hockey season starts, that means that the holidays are just around the corner. And there's no better way to stay hydrated and to avoid a nasty hangover than drinking Liquid IV. With fresh flavors such as cotton candy, rainbow sherbet, and more, Liquid IV has many different products and varieties on hand. Not only does it have 3 times the electrolytes than the leading sports drink, but it also hydrates you faster than water. So whether you're planning to have some drinks over the holidays or just looking for gift ideas, you can support me by using my promo code AlyssaHope in all caps. This will give you 20% off your entire order plus free shipping. My link will be down below, or you can just fire up the website and plug in my code from there. And now, back to the video. It really doesn't seem like it was all that long ago that the Montreal Canadiens went all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals back in 2021. And even though it seemed pretty magical, at the helm of the run was former Hart winner Carey Price. By the time the Habs faced Tampa Bay in the final round, Price had managed to win the hearts of Habs fans, as the netminder had proven himself season after season that he could be relied upon to shoulder the bulk of the workload in Montreal. As I alluded to, his accomplishments definitely speak for themselves, as a goaltender managed to capture multiple awards due to his play throughout the 2014-15 campaign. Unfortunately though, after Montreal failed to capture Lord Stanley, it was in the offseason of the same year that Price was dealt some devastating news. Since Price was originally getting looked at by his surgeon for a torn meniscus, it was then that the doctor uncovered something else, as it was then realized that the goaltender had significant cartilage damage when it came to one of his knees. Despite specialists proposing a cartilage transplant, Price declined and instead opted to try and play his way through the injury. However, it was quickly realized that Price's knee wasn't going to respond kindly to simple rehabilitation. Every day I'd skate, the knee would swell up. I'd try to flush it out as best I could. I'd take anti-inflammatories, but I don't think they helped that much. I took a couple of shots to try and get through it. Those last games were a struggle, Price said. After attempting on multiple occasions to make a comeback, Price eventually surrendered to fate after taking home the Mastodon Trophy for his efforts. His last slew of games he appeared in took place in April of 2022. At that point in his contract, he was about halfway through the 8-year deal he signed that commands a $10.5 million cap hit per year. Since Price landed on LTIR, he's remained on the Habs books ever since, and that's probably where his contract will stay until its expiration in 2026. Selected first overall in the NHL draft of '98, Vincent Lecavalier proved to be a staple in Tampa Bay's lineup for quite some time. Not only did he help aid the Lightning to its first Stanley Cup in team history, he was also offensively consistent. Besides the fact that the forward captured the Rocket Richard in 2007, he also notched 20 goals for 20 consecutive seasons. Despite this though, in 2013, the player that was the face of the Bolts franchise for a decade found himself being bought out. Reason being, in order to remain cap compliant, management thought the solution was to bid farewell to Lecavalier, who suffered quite a dip in production in the shortened lockout season. After only managing to muster up 32 points in 39 games played and only 10 goals, the Quebec native had no choice but to take his talents elsewhere. While Lecavalier was playing his first season with Philly, he was receiving 2 paychecks. Due to the buyout, the former captain received an $8 million bonus at the start. Instead of getting every cent of his 11-year, $85 million deal, Lecavalier began receiving $1.76 million from his former team per year. Aside from this, he also cashed in his payouts from the other NHL teams he was on until 2016, before announcing his retirement. Aside from this, he also cashed in his payouts from other NHL teams until 2016, before announcing his retirement officially 2 years later. What's astonishing, however, is the fact that Lecavalier is going to be getting those $1.76 million installments until 2027. At that point, he'll have been retired for nearly a decade. Well, there's Nail Yakupov and Eric Johnson among others. One of the most devastating first overall picks for many reasons was Rick DiPietro. For starters, the Isles literally traded away Roberto Luongo for this guy. Secondly, DiPietro unfortunately was far from being able to live up to the hype that comes with being first overall. Due to the slew of injuries that derailed his career, the goaltender struggled to remain competitive between the pipes. By the time it was all said and done for the netminder, he ended up finishing with a losing record. After compiling 136 losses and only 130 wins over a 318-game span, DiPietro had cost the Isles immensely. Given the possibility of the hypothetical, if former GM Mike Milbury hadn't traded away Luongo and somehow he had become the guy in net for the team, it's hard not to wonder how different things might have been. DiPietro didn't just cost the Islanders potential success, but he also ended up costing them big time financially. In 2013, once it became clear to management that the goaltender wasn't going to pan out, DiPietro was bought out and sent down to the AHL. Despite trying to revive his career with the Charlotte Checkers, DiPietro ultimately concluded that his professional hockey days were behind him once he failed to secure a contract. However, even though he hasn't played an official game in over a decade now, DiPietro is still getting paid from the team that once drafted him nearly 2 decades ago. As the netminder has been receiving an annual $1.5 million paycheck from the Isles and will continue to until 2029. When the contract was initially drawn up, in 2006, it was the most lucrative of its kind, as it amounted to $67.5 million. Looking back today, this contract is known by most NHL fans as one of the biggest disasters in hockey history. In conclusion, I really hope you all enjoyed this new video topic. If you enjoyed this video and aren't subscribed, I'd love for you to give this channel a chance. And for those of you who are consuming my content on the regular, consider joining my Patreon. For just the cost of a cup of coffee per month, you can watch my videos days before everyone else and ad-free. I also share monthly channel analytics and do shoutouts thanking each member for their support. If you'd like to contribute and help me afford the software I use to make these videos, simply click my link below to get started. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.